Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to do a work in progress video. This is the Sideshow Collectibles Mystique statue. Now I don't have all the parts on it because all we're doing is we're going to be repainting the white on her outfit. Now, I don't know what happened between Sideshow's prototype to the factory paint up. Now I don't know if the prototype was painted like this, but you know the way Sideshow always has those really extravagant light setups and the way they turn their statues for the prototype and take pictures and color correct. For all we know, this statue could have been painted very heavy gray, but with the lighting, like you can see the way the boots are glossy, like when you get it in certain lighting, you get that whiteness to it. See how you get like that white shine to it? So I don't know if, you know, did they add all this heavy gray and then all of a sudden they glossed it and you lose it in the light? I'm not really sure what's going on. Or was the prototype more of a white outfit, but the factory screwed up and painted it a very heavy shading and didn't really tone down the shading? I'm not really sure what happened. All in all, it's really not that Mystique looking. It's more like a very muddy, white, dirty outfit. I do know somebody that did purchase it, and when they got it in hand, they couldn't stand looking at it, and they returned it because of that. I know somebody else that got it who's debating to do the same or asking me to do it, but the one here is for somebody else I know who loves the statue but can't stand the color. And the other thing, too, is I don't understand is why is the boots and the gloves gloss, but the outfit's not glossy? Like, was that intentional? Was that on the prototype? Can anyone tell me in a video? I didn't really study the prototype video and everything too much when they first showed this because I was going to buy this statue for a personal custom, but then I decided not to. I got other stuff going on. But all in all, we're just going to repaint this one for them. So I don't have the base, I don't have the heads, I don't have all the other elements. I have a couple things in the box that I might have to work on too, but it's just the main outfit is kind of what I'm focused on now. It's not really hard to sort of repaint the white. I mean, all I have to really do is mask off the legs and then the skulls and this gun and the arm and do it. But the issue is getting it set up in a way where I can mask it, paint it, and let it dry. So, like with the leg, I'll probably have to put on one of my metal rods and then put like a block of wood here, mask this off with silly putty and saran wrap and be able to paint it and let it dry. But the body is a little bit more tricky because you can't really, you know, set it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get like a block of wood in the garage and get another block of wood and sort of get this so I can set her up like with maybe like a piece of metal or magnet in the wood. And then this way I can just kind of mask off the leg and kind of paint up the body. The gun here is kind of the same thing. So mask off the gun and everything and paint it up and all that. Now for this piece here, I really don't have to worry too much. I'm surprised that they let this piece on and it's not magnetized, which is kind of weird, but whatever. I don't have to worry about painting this because this is going to get covered anyway. So I just need to worry about the main areas, you know, on this one, so that's good. And I just have to mask off the skulls. Now, the only other problem I'm concerned about is whenever I paint this up, I kind of just paint over the existing item because there's really no reason to strip it down. Plus, I would have to repaint the blue anyway if I was to strip it down. So I don't use regular primer over the white. What I do is I have that adhesion promoter, which is that clear coat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this steel woods wool stuff and kind of score the white. Once I mask this off, though, I'll score this down. Because it's so glossy, I want to make sure that that adhesion promoter bonds to it a little bit better. I don't really need to do it with the main body because it doesn't have that glossiness to it. The glossiness is kind of what I'm a little bit concerned about. I'm not going to use my 3M pads though because I might sand some of this detail down, which I don't want to do. It's just a matter of kind of just using the steel wood, get it a little bit like scuffed up, and then when you hit with the adhesion promoter, it'll bond better. So that's kind of the goal. And then that's pretty much all we're going to do. So when I usually paint white though is I use the Createx Wicked White because that's my favorite white brand I've found so far. And I'll use a little bit of like a bluish gray shading, but I won't go as crazy as this. And then I'm going to talk to the client though, because right now I'm just kind of planning my attack right now. I got to send him some pictures. We're going to see if he wants to go satin, which is kind of like a little bit of gloss, but not much. Then there's flat, which make it look like the outfit, everything will be flat, or glossy. I don't know what he really wants to go with. And then I don't know if he wants me to hit a little interference blue into it too. I'm not really sure. We're going to kind of plan it out, but we'll see what happens. So for right now, I'm just kind of looking it over. I'm getting an idea. I think coming up on this weekend, if I get a chance, I might set this up with a block and everything. Normally what I would do if it was just for me, or normally I would probably just Dremel into these areas and put like, you know, a rod there or something. But since this is for him and he kind of wants it to be nice and clean, we're going to try to do it a different way. But that's pretty much it. This is kind of what the videos, you know, going. Like you, basically, if you guys ever get a statue like this and you just don't like that one little section on the item, there's nothing wrong with kind of masking it off and fixing it with some paint. So that's kind of what we're doing. So it's not that hard of a project. It's more of masking is the problem. Sitting there masking it and then painting it, you know, painting it goes fast. It's the masking that's the issue. So I just got to set this up, set these up, and then I could go ahead and do it. So I'm just looking this over right now. I'm going to get to him. We're going to kind of figure out what he wants painted up. And then from there, basically just start working on it. Alright, sort of a little update. I went in the garage real quick and I had a couple blocks of wood. This is just old wood I have laying around from house stuff and all kinds of stuff. So I cut off these two pieces and I just used my nail gun to put these on. It's not that durable, but it's good enough for what I'm doing. Now you see there's a little gap here. I'm actually going to be working on something where I got to mix up some freeform air. I'm going to mix up enough of the freeform air to fill in an item I'm working on, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a little extra. And I figure what I'll do is I'll put a little chunk of it in here and kind of lock these two places in and sort of create a key here and put her on like right there. So this way, this is durable, it'll hold her, and I don't have to worry about like masking this and then like leaning it on here and trying to do the outfit and everything. It'll be a little bit easier having like sort of a keyed base for this item. So that's kind of what I'm going to do with this. Basically, it's just pretty simple. I think what I'll do, though, is I'll put the freeform air here. I will see about putting a magnet into it, put some saran wrap on, and sort of kind of create a key and let the freeform air kind of cure. And I think it should work out pretty well. And then this way I could just kind of pop it off and I could put it in and the magnet will hold her. And by shoving a little of the freeform air between this pieces here, we'll kind of lock this into place. Now, the reason why I'm going a little bit extra with this is because I have another person that's thinking about doing theirs, but they're not sure yet. So I figure if I sort of have like a sort of stand for it already, in case somebody, you know, the other person wants me to do it, I'll be able to just kind of have it ready to go. And if not, I could take this and put it in the garage and let it sit for a while. And then if, you know, within a couple months or a year, nobody really wants me to do any of these repaints, I could just take this and kind of pull out the pieces and reuse the wood or throw it away. One or the other. So that's kind of my thinking of why I'm doing this. I like to have stuff situated this way. Now, like I said, if I was going to be customizing this and repainting it from scratch, I probably would just drum a hole through here. If it was just like a one-off, and I would use one of my metal rods or like even a drill bit to hold her up. But with this, it's the same thing. You know, it should be, it should work out pretty fine. Yeah, that's the only reason why I'm going this length on this, because I figure if I have to do any more down the line, I have something to hold it. So let me go ahead and mix up that freeform air. I'm going to work on the other item, and then I'll come back and we should be able to put this on and go from there. But I'll be doing that in the garage with the item, so I'll just leave this stuff like this. Alright, so I went ahead and I got the freeform air on here. It's starting to heat up pretty well, so it's going to start curing pretty soon. I sort of shoved a bunch in there. It's kind of around this whole entire piece. So once this kind of cures, it's going to lock this in. The only downside with freeform air is it likes to expand. So I'm kind of, this is just kind of rigging something up. I'm not really a fan of the way this piece is kind of coming off, but this is kind of going onto wood, so. Now, the only problem with freeform air is if you put it in something, it doesn't have enough air to kind of, it expands and it can kind of squeeze out of areas. So I'm using gloves now because I don't want to touch the item after I touch this stuff. So taking those off. So we're going to grab some saran wrap. The only problem with saran wrap though is you can make a key, but you gotta be kind of careful with the key because, you know, it's saran wrap. So I'm just gonna kind of throw that in there like so, and then make sure I position this where I want to, kind of up forward as much as possible. That's kind of the key for now. It's not perfect. And the idea is not to make it perfect, but what I can do is I'm going to take this off. We'll let this cure up a bit. And then what I'm going to do is kind of like keep touching this and waiting till it like kind of cures up pretty well. Throw on some more saran wrap and then go from there. There's this little paintbrush here. Let's see. So I like where it's at right now. It's kind of higher above. And this should work pretty well. I might have to put a stronger magnet in there. I mean, I hate wasting magnets, but what I might do is, depending on how strong this is, nah, not the strongest magnet in the world. I'll figure something out. I got an idea. But let's just get this key situated first. And then this should work out pretty well. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't, if she kind of falls forward a little bit, I can always sort of kind of create another piece of wood to hit this over here or something. And kind of have something a little bit better. And I'm not worried that if the skulls are kind of hitting in here, because what I can do is I could kind of grind out that area to show this. So I'm not worried about it. So it's going to work. So let me let this cure up a bit, and then we'll come back, and hopefully it's kind of a little bit better. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes or so. It's starting to get a little bit hotter and a little bit tougher. I went in the garage and I found a magnet sort of sticking to one of my tools. It probably came off of something. I think it's cracked on the other side. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put this back in here and sort of kind of create a little hole area. At least the start of a hole area. That should be pretty good. So you kind of see how it's looking. So what I'm going to do now is kind of, yeah, it's kind of soft at the outside, but the inside like area is kind of curing up pretty well. So let's kind of experiment real quick just to see how far this piece goes down into here. It's not that far. With freeform air, I doubt it's going to hold the magnet, but I'm just going to kind of leave it in there anyway. So I am going to really let this cure now. Let's see, it's about, give it about a good half hour and it should be set up pretty well. I'm pretty sure if I put some more saran wrap on here, and then, yeah, see, like this part over here is kind of toughed up pretty well, but over here it's kind of still a little soft, but it's definitely really hot to the touch. So, yeah, give it about a half hour more. Just to give me a chance to kind of get some other stuff done, come back, and then make sure it's looking pretty good. Like I said, I'm pretty sure the magnet will pop out, but once it's cured, I could probably Dremel out this area a little bit, shove some Aves in there when I'm working on something else, kind of just get some Aves in there to lock it in a little bit better. And then I think it should hold. It should be pretty good. I can't really see. Like I said, if there's any other stuff, we'll see. Just playing it by ear. But like I said, I might be painting up more, so it's better to have something set up and hold them for a while. Alright, everything is pretty much set up. I'm going to do the best I can explaining what we're going on. But what I did is I masked everything up. This setup worked out perfect for this. I did my silly putty masking and saran wrap. You probably could see it on this one a little bit better. You can kind of see over here some of this white areas you're showing. What I did is I used the steel wood and some sandpaper just to kind of get a like scoring on these stuff, just to kind of clean up. So I have my adhesion promoter here. So I'm going to give some adhesion promoter to everything, get it pretty much set up, and then after that we'll start doing all the white paint. I did mask off this too as well. I have to mask it all off in a way where I can keep the stuff without touching the white. It's a little bit tricky because the magnets won't hold these pieces completely up. And that's kind of probably like the foot over here. I don't know if it's in the camera. Yeah, you can see it right here. I put this between two blocks and stuff because trying to keep this with the magnet doesn't work. But as long as I can paint it and put it back onto the item and let it dry, we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get the fans going. I'm going to spray this down with the adhesion promoter. It's pretty straightforward. You just kick on the fans and kind of... and go ahead and open up the window. Usually I do this stuff in the garage, but because this is, I don't want to be moving this stuff back and forth. I don't want to keep doing it. The adhesion promoter just helps bond everything. It's good for whenever I do this type of stuff. So let me get this window open, do one more coat on this, and then we'll start painting. Alright, so we're going to start painting this up. Now, the goal is not to make it like so dark and so like heavily shaded. We're going to have some shading in there, but it's going to be a little bit more, I guess, the idea is to kind of make it sort of like silky, but not pure pearlized color, but not flat white. We got to find that mixed in between. So I have Createx Wicked Colors white. It's the best white I've used so far for acrylics. I love the way it goes on. It's smooth. It dries really well. It doesn't like crack up like a lot of other whites from other companies, at least in my experience. So I always use this. Now I also have some Createx Pearl. I have some Golden Interference Blue, and then right here is a bottle of, it's like a bluish gray. I mixed this up for, recently I just did a Power Girl statue, and this is kind of like something I like to use for like white paints for shading, because I don't like to use any blacks at all. Try to stay away from black. There might be a very, very, very tiny drop of black in with this white. So this is like Wicked Colors white. It's got a couple drops of blue. It's got a very, very small drop of black just to give it that grayish look, but I always like to have the gray or blue colors on my stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start spraying this down. I'm gonna make sure I have enough mixed in here and stuff too, because I think it's kind of low, but it should be enough for this project. And then I'm gonna like dull it down with the Wicked Colors white. Kind of keep going back and forth. I also have to keep in mind of how the arms and everything's positioned, because you don't want to shade up top when the light is coming down at it. You know, you want to make sure that the arms are shaded correctly and stuff. It'll kind of go over that. And then after that, we'll kind of mist on some pearls and some interference blue. The only thing is I don't like to do too much interference blue into the item, because if you do too much interference blue, it starts to actually yellow up the white. It's hard to explain unless you see it in person. Like in a camera and stuff, it may look fine, but what happens is when you see the pure white and you put too much of the interference blue, when you turn the item, you'll get that interference blue stuff, but what'll happen is your highlighted parts where the light's hitting, like from your, you know, above your display case, it'll start to kind of yellowish out, and that's the only thing you got to be careful of. The pearl is great to mix in the pearl at the end, kind of mix in with some varnish. So I have matte varnish and satin varnish. So I don't like to do pure satin on it because it'll make it too glossy, but I don't like to do flat where it flattens out. You mix these two together in equal amount to get sort of like a nice good flat. It's kind of like, it's kind of hard to explain. You have to just kind of do it in person. And then if you put some pearl into there too and you mix it down, you get something more like a superhero type outfit where it's not so pearlized item, but it's also not flat. So it's kind of like layering it up. It's kind of having fun with more of a white color than just spraying white, pearl, and a shade and you're done. Kind of just having more fun with it and kind of working on it. So we're pretty much ready to go. So let me get my airbrush ready and everything. We'll just start spraying it down and then shading it up and then letting it dry. And then what I'll probably do is, with something like this, I'll probably do the whites, get everything going, get the shading good and everything, let it kind of cure up for like an hour, do something else to come back, and then kind of do the final coats, and it should work out pretty well. So I mixed up that bottle of the bluish gray, and what I'm doing now is I'm kind of just hitting a lot of areas with it. I'm not really worried about where it lands. I just kind of want to get some of it in there. It's somewhat close to what was there, but they still added way too much whatchamacallit, grayish color. So I mixed this up with some white, and like I said, I'm just kind of hitting it, getting repaint in there in areas. Yeah, the arms and the feet, you can see that there's a lot of black paint gray in it. They did have some kind of like bluish in there, but not a lot. So this hand is going to be a pain in the ass. Maybe if we do it this way. It'll probably work a little bit better. As long as it doesn't fall down. Hit the thumb or anything. Alright, let me change up cups and then we'll kind of start putting weight on it. Alright, so let's try moving the camera up a little bit more. Alright, so I got white now, and with the white I'm just kind of spraying down. I mean, let's face it, her outfit is supposed to be white. It's not supposed to be all grayed out. So the idea is to have somewhat of a shadow, but not overdo it. Same thing with the boots and everything. Alright, so we got sort of like a base down so far. We're looking pretty good. So what I want to do is what I need to do is I probably should turn this foot in this direction. Because that's the direction we're going to see it. Still got a little bit more to go, but it's a little bit, you know, I don't want to have any bleeding on the white, so I'm going to kind of make sure we're kind of dyeing it down a bit, making sure everything's dry. It'd be nice if the plug stays in, right? Ooh, cool. Okay, so what happens with white, the base color was still a little damp, so when you put the white paint on top of it, it sort of kind of starts mixing together and you start getting that grayish come through. That's probably what was happening with the factory, possibly. But it's drying up pretty well now. So what I did now is I put some of the interference blue into my cup and I mix it with some water. And I'm just gonna kind of give it a little bit of a interference blue in some areas. Like I said, I don't want this interference blue to be overkill, but just to kind of get it in there. It's going to be dulled down again. Like with white, I really like to try to kind of do a lot of blending, because if you overkill it with a certain color, it kind of goes down. But like I said, she's white. I'm kind of just figuring out how to go about it. It's like just alone, that kind of was a little too much interference, but that's okay. It's going to be taken down. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry a little bit because that was kind of a watered down interference. You don't want to go crazy. So let's kind of let this dry a bit, and then we'll come back. Alright, so we're back on track. Dried up pretty well. So we're going to go back to doing a little bit more shading. Try to kind of target a couple areas. Just clean out the airbrush, so making sure everything's nice and clean. There we go. Alright, I'm going to go hit up some other areas with the shading, and then we should be able to come back and start kind of toning it down one more time. Alright, so I have some watered down white mixed with a couple drops of pearl, and the idea now is to sort of hit these areas, clean up some of this shading, make sure we don't have any of that yellowish from the, the interference. Like I said, we want to have some life to it, but we don't want it to be pure white, but we don't want it to be pure like in your face interference and stuff. Sometimes get a couple of drops. Gonna shading goes pretty far with white. Like I said, you don't have to overdo it. Just enough. Just enough to show that we got some detail, but it's not overdone. So I think this is kind of where the factory kind of messed up a lot of. They just kind of overdid it. I'm really liking the way that is on the main body, so we just got to kind of follow that with the rest of the item. So let me kind of shift some stuff over and work on the other parts. Okay, so at this point we're looking pretty good. I'm happy with where it's at, but I want to give it some time to dry, but I also want to kind of give it a little bit of a Tester's Dull Coat spray. Tester's Dull Coat, what it does is I find that it helps me with my paints, where you spray on Tester's Dull Coat. If you don't spray too heavy, you won't melt the paint, but if you spray too light, you get kind of a misting. So if you kind of get in between, it sort of helps kind of melt the paints together. In a way, it's hard to explain. Like, it doesn't do it with all paints. Now, I'm not saying this to do it all paints, but the way I layer, it kind of helps me a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll hit this with Tester's Dull Coat, and then what might happen is some of the shading might pop a little bit through. That's a little bit more than I expected. And it'll kind of, then I could go back in and kind of dull it back down. It's one of those things where I would have to like show you in person. You have to see it with the naked eye what I'm talking about. It doesn't work with all paints, but with this one it will. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of get a little bit of a Tester's Dull Coat on the areas. Not super heavy, not super crazy, and it's just gonna help protect it a little bit more. And then the stuff stinks a lot, so you gotta be very careful with this stuff. But kind of, like I say, I like the layer, I like the blend, and I just keep working on stuff like that. Now, one thing that changed, I don't know if I said it already in the video, he wants me to change up the gun, make it a little bit more realistic. So even though I masked it all off, if I do get any little white spots on there, it'll be taken off anyway. I'm not worried about that. But all in all, I just want to make sure that we're doing good here, and I really liking the way this looks now. White's got way more of a mystique now than a dark outfit. So yeah, so I'm gonna let this dry now. Kind of give this about a good hour. I got some other stuff to do anyway. And then we'll come back and we could kind of do our final coating on it. I think it's where I need it to be. If I need to do any details, I'll have to do it off camera, because I might have to kind of get in there a little bit closer. But I kind of want to show the client too where I'm at. But when we do that flat coat with a little bit of that varnish and pearl mixed in, it'll come together and it'll look really good. So that's kind of where we're at now. Alright, so right now I'm going to do the clear coat. So like I said, we have satin varnish and we have matte varnish. This is also a bottle of water, which is pretty much 90% water and about 10% alcohol. I use this to kind of thin down a lot of my acrylics. So for this one, we're going to put a little bit of water in here. And then we're going to take the matte and varnish, like so. And we're gonna fill up in equal amounts. Get a nice slab in there. And then we're gonna put 1 drop of interference blue in here. Just 1 drop. We don't want a lot of interference in there. And then we have our pearlized white. I'm gonna put a couple of pearlized white in there. And then we gotta get our paintbrush, which I forgot, over here. And then basically I just do this in the cup. Okay, so we're going to put the camera back over on the stuff. We'll seal them up, let that dry, and then after that, we'll tomorrow I can pretty much work on the gun. Alright, so now with this, we want to be very careful because you don't want it to bleed. So I want to make sure just spraying a little bit out. So what happens is, like, when you fill it in, you'll probably have a lot of the certain flatness or color in there, but now that it's gone through, kind of, so I'm trying to make sure it doesn't bleed, but I want to make sure I get a decent coat on here. And the reason why I'm using the smaller airbrush to do it is because we only have sections. I do have a bigger airbrush that can spray thicker, but the only problem with that though is if you overspray in a certain area, dust will go in the other area. So I'm just trying to get this in key areas here. So since we just did the main body, instead of trying to get every other part done in one shot, let's kind of dry it down. Alright, that's actually looking really like it. Looks good. Give it a little bit of a second coat. Alright, I'm going to dry this one down now, and I'm going to pull her off of the airbrush booth, and then I can do the other parts. Alright, it's the next day, everything's looking pretty good. So I talked to the client, I figured let's kind of change up the bottom of the boots a bit. So I don't know if you guys have watched my live streams. A while back I did some Jessica Rabbit statues, and the Nun Jessica Rabbit, one of my viewers suggested doing the, I forgot what they call them, but it's like the black boots with the red soles underneath. So I talked to the client, I said, why don't we do this with this one, but not red of course, but a darker gray. Just to kind of change up the boots. You're not really going to see them much anyway, unless you look at her from like different angles, the way the feet are on the statue. So I went ahead and I mixed up a darker gray, bluish gray paint. So I'm going to just do the soles to the back of this heel back there. So I'm going to do a little bit of a test on this. Like I said, I just mixed this up. So the white, it looks like white at the cap, but when it comes out, it's darker gray. There it is. So what I want to do is I want to see if I need to darken it up a little bit more, if it looks okay. So basically on the back of the heel here, I'm just going to kind of just put this down. kind of hard to see, and I gotta wipe off the edges. So I think it needs to be just a little bit darker. Maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. I gotta be very careful with white though. I can't mess this up. Alright, I gotta darken it up a little bit more. Probably add a little bit more bluish and some darker grays into it. Yeah, I think I need to add a little bit more blues in there. So I'm going to add a little bit more blues. I'm going to get the color right, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'll probably do like just like a trim, and then I'll mask it off and hit it with the airbrush, and then we'll have like sort of a darker gray sole underneath, and I think it'll look good for her, just to kind of make it pop a little bit more. Just something a little extra, you know. Little tiny details like that kind of, you know, make the things pop a little bit more. Okay, so I got the color mixed up, and I think this is going to be good. I think this is going to be the color. It's a little bit more of a bluish gray, a little bit darker. So I think this will definitely look good when done. I didn't want to throw too much like black into it. I don't know if you can kind of see where I'm going with it. Because I think if I put too much black, it'll just turn into like a gray sole. But I think this like bluish color a little bit better. I mean, I might just be able to paintbrush it too. Yeah, so let's see. If I have a good paintbrush that's not too... Alright, let me hit it with the blow dryer, and that should look pretty good. Just the bottom of the heel, like that. Alright, so on to the gun now. This black area I like. This whole area here is fine. It's this area here that looks like a toy. Not really sure why it's kind of like just flat gray. And even these areas up here are sort of, they're okay. I would think that this kind of would be more plastic anyway. So, and then this here is kind of like a plastic piece. This is kind of more gunmetal, but this right here is kind of what we're going to focus on, and we're going to make this pop more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask all this off with Silly Putty. I'm going to mask this off over here. I'll probably throw some, Silly Putty into this area here. I I guess that's supposed to be looking like it's glowing. It's kind of a little bit, I'll see what I can do. I don't know if it, well, it looks like maybe it was sprayed and then the pieces glued into there. It's gotta be. Yeah, there's no way that that was casted up like that. Yeah, so I'm going to do the mask all this up, and then we're going to work on this area here. What I'm going to be using is AK Interactive steel on this, so I think this will make it pop a little bit more, and I think it'll just look better. Yeah, I do need to kind of clean up in here though after this area in here with her hand, because even the factory sort of kind of didn't make that perfect, so I want to clean that up afterwards. But this is the area I want to make look like steel. So I think if this is like the AK Interactive steel, with this being this gunmetal, I think it'll look good. Because if I do the whole entire gun just in AK Interactive, it's going to look kind of plain. But if we make this look a little bit better, I think it'll pop a little bit more. So I think that's what we're going to do. All other than that, and then like these areas right here, I'll have to kind of touch up again. You know, I'll have to go in here and kind of touch up some areas and stuff. But I think it'll look good. And I think after that's done, what I'll do is I'll spray some interference blue into here and make this kind of glow a little bit better. You know, kind of make it glow better. So that's kind of what we're going to do. So this is going to take a little time to kind of mask up. And then what I need to do is, once that's masked up, I got to sort of... I'm trying to think. Well, I guess if a little bit gets messy, once I kind of spray it, and then if I lay it down and it gets a little tacky or anything, there's going to be some dry brushing on anyway. We're going to kind of weather it. It's not going to just be steel and done. So I'll make it work. Because, like, it's always hard, these type of items, like, you know, to paint them and then try to situate them. Because I would rather this get a little bit messy and touch this up with a paintbrush and make it look weathered than to try to have to do the white all over again. White is always a pain in the ass, so I'd rather protect this area and make this worn than this perfectly clean and then screw this up. So that's kind of the thought process. So I'm going to go ahead and start masking this up, and then we'll spray this down and then weather it up and kind of touch it up in there and kind of get it done. Okay, so I went ahead and added some glow on here. Now what I'm going to do is, I have some interference blue, and what I'm going to do is kind of get in there and make it glow a little bit better than what it's doing. Not really sure. Like I said, I think I'm almost pretty sure that this is glued in there. It's a weird looking gun. I've never seen anything like this. I don't know what kind of design it is, but I guess it's kind of like, somehow I guess what they did was, from what I can tell, is they kind of gave it a little bit of a glow, and then they glued these plastic pieces in there, and I think that's how it looks. But the interference is going to make it a little bit more glowy-ish, I guess you can say. Alright, I think I'm going to blow dry that and let that sit, and then I think we're kind of done, and just kind of go over it one more time. But the whole idea is to make sure that, you know, it's got a lot of breaking up. You know, we got black, we got this steel now, we got the black down here, but this is kind of like plastic pieces, this is gunmetal, and then we got the glow. So I think that's kind of where we want to keep it. And this, with this interference there, hopefully you guys can see it's kind of glowing a little bit more. Kind of just makes it pop. Breaking it up as much as we can, I guess you can say. I didn't really like how these black pieces were here. I like this better as the steel. So I think that looks a little bit better like that. But I think we're looking good. I like it, you know. Don't really need to do anything else. Yeah, so let me blow dry this because I don't want to put this down and ruin it. So I'll get this dried up and then we'll come back. And I think what I'll do is off camera is I'm going to go over it one more time, do any touch-ups, anything I'm seeing. And then what I could do is I could put most of the body together and kind of show you guys. But this video will be posted after I send this back to the client and he gets it and he can send me pictures. And then I'll have that included at the end of the video. So this way you guys can see what it looks like, you know, in a display case since I didn't get all the body parts.